defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. And I need to start off the show today. I need to make a correction from last week's show. So last week, I started off talking about the NFL, and I was describing that one crazy catch, and I kind of screwed up, and a listener alerted me to this, and he told me actually the correct information here. So forgive me. As I said on last week's show, look, I'm not a football guy. I enjoy watching football, but I don't follow the teams that well. I don't know the players really, just the famous ones. And I was mentioning on last week's show, I'm like, oh yeah, that amazing receiver Julio Jones. And I was associating him with the Patriots, which actually he's on the Falcons team. And so I made that mistake. And then secondly, the guy who caught the ball, that crazy catch I was describing, that was Julian Edelman, however you say it. So I just want to make that correction. Listener Noah, he brought this forth, so thank you for that. I want to keep things accurate here on the Justin Moore Show, and so that's what I strive to do. I'll lead with my mistakes. And so there we go. Now, on today's show, we're not going to talk about the NFL. Don't worry. I ran into an interesting piece kind of pointing out and putting things into perspective with presidents and their first 30 days in office. Now, this is just looking at the stock market and kind of looking at what were the stock market returns in the first 30 days in terms of a percentage gain. And this is a piece that's coming from MarketWatch. So the stock market, the Dow closed on Friday, which was February 17th, at 20,624. And see, this is one thing I never want to do on my show, like trying to make predictions. Like this was, remember when the Dow Jones, it almost hit 20,000, then it retreated, and there's some commentators out there like, oh, see, the stock market's never going to hit 20,000 and this and that, like making predictions now. Don't you kind of look like a fool just a little bit? Where it's at 20,624, like you don't know. I mean, yes, is the stock market in a bubble? Yeah, it is. But can it go higher? Yes, it can. But does that mean that because the stock market is higher, that everything is structurally sound in the economy, things are great because the stock market's moving up? No. You watched your, say, CNBC, your Fox Business. Everybody's so caught up in just the little numbers, and it's like, yep, this is evidence that the stock market's doing well. Trump's taking credit. There's a tweet that he sent out on February 16th. So this was the day before the Dow closed at a record high. And this is what Trump said. And this is, of course, at real Donald Trump. He said, stock market hits new high with longest winning streak in decades. Great level of confidence and optimism, even before tax plan rollout. So there's Trump taking credit for the stock market. And hey, look, man, people are, yes, we got a businessman in office. I am creating a sense of optimism in the economy because I'm very pro-business, that sort of thing. Now, don't get me wrong. A Trump presidency thus far, compared to, say, Obama, he is a lot more pro-business because Obama was talking about, yes, we need to have a recovery, but he's bashing businessmen and rich people at the same time. You're like, what? I mean, Obama was so ideological and Trump is not. But, confidence and optimism can only get you so far. We still have massive misallocations of resources in our economy. That's the problem. And what have we done since 2008 to fix these structural problems in the economy? Well, the Federal Reserve added, $4.5 trillion to its balance sheet. The QE1, QE2, QE3s, Operation Twist, the stimulus, jobs bills, Frank Dodd, which we talked about, that was at last week's show. So, I mean, a lot of the things that we've done to supposedly help get our economy going, focusing on aggregate demand, this is all the wrong things to do. Having interest rates near zero for, 7-8 years now? I mean, this is crazy. And this is why the Austrian view of economics, it's why it's so beneficial. But the average person is like, wait, Austrian economics, what the hell is that? Austrian economics, they're the ones who actually explain why low interest rates are what leads to the bust, what creates the massive misallocation of resources in the economy. And that's what's taking place right now. Now, we haven't seen these massive misallocation of resources yet because the bust hasn't happened. We're not letting the bust occur. And Austrians will argue that the bust is actually healthy because you're clearing out, okay, hey, you were investing in the wrong things. You were focusing scarce resources into sectors of the economy where people really don't value those products, but it was the government stimulus, the government jobs bills, all these sort of things where the government's artificially stimulating demand. You're focusing your efforts where they need not be, or where they shouldn't be. And that's the thing with economics. And like Thomas Sowell would always stress in his book, Basic Economics, economics is about the allocation of resources to their next best use. Well, when the government's getting involved, of course, and I've already said this millions of times on this show. Well, okay, that's a stretch, not a million times. But I think, what was it, last week's show? Maybe that was 2 weeks ago, where I was just kind of pointing out how, it's like with the auto sector. Look, the economy's doing great because the auto industry is leading the way in consumer spending. Well, as I've done a few times on this show, I've done like 2 shows on it, talking about how the car industry is in a massive bubble, and they're not at its high, but it's still kind of going. So it hasn't deflated yet. And so if you're thinking the economy is great, because look at consumer spending is being led by auto industry, but look at a lot of people who are buying brand new cars have what's considered poor credit. Buying a car is that something that's going to make you money? Is that an investment? No. So when you had the housing bust back in 2008. People think, oh yeah, look at people are flipping houses and looking at houses as investments when they're not. It's a consumption item. Same thing with the car industry. So if you're thinking the economy's doing well because people are out buying new cars, but if you're buying new cars with money you don't really have, you're just looking, well, I really couldn't afford this car before, but heck, man, now they have 84-month loans. They have 72-month. 72 month is pretty much the average what people are doing now. 72 months to buy a car? That's crazy. But that's what's going on right now. Because people are just looking, can I afford the payment? People don't look at, what are you paying in interest throughout that one? Like with my truck that I got, and I've stated before, I purposely got it, I purposely did it for 60-month payments, and I locked in a low interest rate, just over 2%. And if I see that there's going to be massive inflation coming, that sort of thing, it's going to be beneficial for me. As long as I can have my money at work making more than what I'm paying in interest for my truck, well then for me it was a smart move, right? But if you're the type of person who pays, you have your credit card but you're paying the minimums on it, and you're just keeping your head just barely above water, and then you're buying a new car, like that's not smart at all. You should not be buying a car, especially when prices will most likely get cheaper. So what? I guess I'm really I'm stretching this out. I didn't even mean to go this long. I didn't even mean to expand this example this far. But all I'm saying here is this: that all the resources that people are spending buying cars is now money that they can't do something else, or like money that someone would have had to invest or put in a savings account where then other entrepreneurs can borrow, put money to use in sectors where people actually benefit. And actually I want to get to later in the show talking about flying drone taxis, manless flying drone taxis in Dubai. I was reading that story and I'm blown away. I'm like getting excited, like, wow, the future, this is going to be awesome. So let me just get to that just a little bit later. But before we do, so let me just back to the stock market here and looking at other presidents in their first 30 days. And we want to see, okay, how does the Trump presidency thus far, how does it line up with other presidents? And if we take a look at the first of Trump's first 30 days in office, let's see, what do we have here? Okay, the stock market, the Dow Jones is up just over 4%. And actually this makes Trump, he's ranked 5th overall of all the presidents. So there's been 45 presidents. Well, I guess 44 because Grover Cleveland was the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. So Grover Cleveland is actually considered the 22nd and the 24th president. But that's a little small technicality. I guess if you are ever on Jeopardy, then you'll know, oh, there's actually been 44 presidents, not 45. But anyway, you look at, the president who had the best increase in the Dow in his first 30 days was Theodore Roosevelt, 26th president. He had the Dow moved up 6.5%. William McKinley, who was the 25th president, stock market was up just 5.6%. Then you have William Howard Taft at 5%, FDR at 4%, and then Trump just at 4%. So Trump's just right up there. But here's the thing, Trump here, he's tweeting out basically, hey, look at me, I'm great. I'm making the stock market great again. I'm amazing. I'm the most amazing guy ever to walk the earth, all that sort of thing. And like that Trump press conference, did you guys listen to that? Oh my God. I mean, this is why I make the point over and over again on my show. Why do you need to watch sitcoms? I mean, if Seinfeld was just coming out now, no one would watch Seinfeld because you don't need to watch those sort of things because you have Donald Trump up there. Here he is at his little press conference, and Donald Trump saying how amazing he is. He's still talking about the polls. He was talking about, here he is, he's the president of the United States. The election was months and months ago, and he's pointing out, hey, look, people didn't think I would get over 220 electoral votes. They were thinking, it would be impossible for him to get over 240, whatever he was saying. But Trump actually ended up with 306. Everybody thought that was totally impossible. So here's Trump just going off on that. It's just all this same sort of braggadocious sort of comments saying how amazing he is. And yeah, he's making everything great again. Gosh dang, it's so... It's fun. I mean, it is entertaining. There's no question about it. I mean, could George Bush... Would you really want to listen to him up there talking to the press? No, he's stumbling all over the place. You're like, okay, George, come on, man. But no, with Trump, it is. It's like I'm watching a TV show. So it's great. But it's also scary at the same time. But Trump, he has a sort of weird sort of elegance, he's just a guy who's really easy to understand. Like his communication, it's very simplistic, but he's easy to follow, even though, he repeats himself several times and he'll repeat lines over and over again. But he's an effective communicator. And, I brought up several episodes ago how there's so many people caught up, you go to college and you're in public speaking class and they're trying to teach you how to become a great public speaker. Don't say, don't say these little sort of technicalities. So people who are amazing speakers, they don't use those words but there are people out there, Trump. I mean, you can, they'll use filler words like I seem to do, but that doesn't mean that you're not a good speaker. I mean, there are some people like, say, Obama. Okay, yeah, Obama would use and that sort of thing, but he just thinks just sounding good, that's not good enough. Obama has a voice that's really easy to listen to. There are some people out there who have a higher sort of voice. The higher frequency, it's kind of, it's a squeaky, squealy sort of sound. It's hard to want to listen to him. But no, Trump has a sort of really soft sort of demeanor, he's being very calm and gentle. But he's an effective communicator. It's just a very interesting sort of speaking style, unlike anyone else. But it works. Look at how Trump lured people in at his campaign event. So he's definitely onto something with his unique speaking style. And, a lot of people can take something from that. And I've got to point it out on my show also how there's a lot of people now using Trump phrases, believe me. I can't, every time I'm hearing someone else speak and I keep hearing believe me, I'm just thinking, Trump, So anyway, here's Trump taking credit for the stock market rally. And, he's ranked right up there towards the top. And if you look at just the bottom president, this is actually the best 30-day start of the stock market under a new president since FDR. And FDR was the 32nd president of the United States. And and if you look at what has the Dow and the NASDAQ done since the election, since Trump was the president-elect on November 8th, you had the Dow's up 12% since the election. S&P's up nearly 10%. So I mean that's a pretty good rally in the stock market in those few months. And I've also talked about on my show how ever since the election, Gold and silver were getting beat to hell. It was horrible. Week after week, 7 weeks straight of losses, gold and silver. And here a lot of the big-time experts were saying, oh man, Trump gets elected, there's going to be so much volatility, people are going to be uncertain what the heck's going to happen. Gold and silver are going to shoot up. They're predicting gold and silver rallies of 7%, that sort of thing. No, that didn't happen. As I just said, gold and silver collapsed in value in 7 straight weeks. Well, that seems to have turned around now. And I went and I looked up, okay, what is gold and silver? What has it done since the start of 2017? Actually, gold and silver have done very well. Gold is up year to date 7.6%. You have silver up 13.1%. And when you see numbers like that, this is what's so amazing. And this is why, for me, investing in, say, gold and silver, it's such a no-brainer. Because here you are, you're not just buying, say, into the stock market, which, okay, you could be up over 10%. That's great. But if you think, okay, yes, the stock market's in a bubble, but we don't know how much longer it's going to go. Okay, so you could ride it. You could make some good money, sure. But there's a lot more risk in that, isn't there? But look at with gold and silver, you're still making up almost 8% with gold year to date. Silver's up 13%. If you're invested in the miners, you've made a lot more than that. And here at the same time, gold and silver, it's also a hedge. You know, let's say if the currency collapses, gold and silver will do very well, you know, against economic instability in the world, which I would certainly argue that there's definitely a case that things are going to get a lot more rough in the future in terms of economies. You look at what's going on around the world, and here you are, you can buy an asset that's up already 8% this year, and it's also an insurance hedge. I mean, talk about, for me, it's a no-brainer. And obviously you have to make the right choice for you. Just do your research. Investing in gold and silver, that's the conclusion I came to. And I'm guessing if you're a listener of the show, you most likely come from looking at the economy in a very similar way to me. I mean, I would guess. I mean, who knows? Maybe I got a bunch of Keynesians listen, you know? I mean, that's always good to get the other side, right? Now, and I also found this to be very interesting. Now, yeah, as I just said, some people are saying, hey, stock market's not in a bubble. It's still fairly valued. Others are saying the opposite. Well, just to give you an interesting stat here, this is coming from IPLresearch.com. Get this. With equity markets breaking out across the board, the real winner so far early in 2017 has been the NASDAQ. In fact, it has made new all-time highs on 6 consecutive days for the first time since December of 1999. Anytime we see December 1999, it brings back bad memories of what was right around the corner for tech stocks, about a 90% drop in the first 3-year bear market for equities since the Great Depression. So is this another major warning sign for tech? So that's interesting. 6 consecutive days the NASDAQ has hit all-time highs. And the last time it did that was back in December 1999. And back in 2000 is when you had the tech stock bubble burst. And as I just read there, in 3 years after 2000, all the way up to 2002, tech stocks collapsed by 90%. Well, that same sort of collapse happened with gold from the 2011 highs to last year. Gold, a lot of the big-time gold miners were down 90%. That's why, even if you don't believe in gold, if you think I'm full of it when it comes to that sort of stuff, oh no, gold's not money, yada, 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 even if you take the completely different side of that, any sort of industry where the values have collapsed by 90%, there's a good chance that you're just buying something that's so hated you can't help but make money, right? So you can look at that angle too when you're buying gold and silver, that you're not buying at a high, you're buying when it's still very, very cheap. It's very cheap insurance. And also on this site, I found this interesting phrase, and I guess a lot of you, if you follow Wall Street, you know all the different quotes. And actually, I never had heard this one before. But it's a popular old technical analysis, and it says, the longer the base, the higher in space. Okay, so here, and they're kind of arguing, looking at the stock market, it's been building a base for quite some time, so what's going to be, that means it's about ready to take off. But that same case, that same quote, the longer the base, the higher in space. Gold has been in its longest sort of correction period. So since it's peaked in 2011, here we are in 2017. Gold still hasn't hit its highs from 2011. And it's gone down. It went down several years in a row. just cheaper and cheaper. And as I just described to you guys, how some of the best gold miners were down over 90%. Just huge. And so if you look at gold and silver, you look at these miners, they've been building up this base for quite some time. So the higher in space, so when gold and silver does take off, well, beginning of 2016, from January to July, you made a lot of money investing in gold and silver. Right now, it seems like we're kind of repeating what happened last year. Basically, since the middle of December, gold and silver have rallied a little bit. And as I just stated, gold's up just about 8% for the year. Silver's up 13%. Unless you want to keep your money in the bank and make your safe, 0.5% in interest you can get from the bank? Yeah, there you go. And so that's a question you guys have to ask yourselves. How much bigger will this bubble get before it bursts? Well, if Janet Yellen, she seems a little more giddy about raising interest rates, and I kind of argue she's more, it's more of the political angle why I think there's a better chance of her raising interest rates in 2017 compared to last year. Because it was, basically the Fed was figuring that, okay, yes, Hillary will most likely win, and Janet Yellen, she's a Democrat, but now that it's Trump is taking ownership of the economy, Janet Yellen's really off the hook, right? Is really off the hook when it comes to the economy, because you can just blame Trump. Well, no, Trump was saying this was his rally, so hey, look, things collapse under him. It's because of his cavalier sort of speaking style, that sort of thing. So will the bubble pop in 2017? I don't see how much longer this game can go on. Especially, as the Fed does raise interest rates a little bit more, it's the needle getting closer to pricking that bubble. Because that's what you need. You need interest rates going up is what will clear out. And the investments that people have been making with the free money out there, those will no longer be seen as good investments. Because money's not as cheap as it was before. And but that's what we need. We need this bubble to pop. We need scarce resources to go to their most productive uses. That's why economies have been stumbling along for the last 8 years, going on 9 years, because we're like moving around like a zombie. Why do you think Japan has moved around like this giant zombie economy? That's what Keynesian economics does. It's not about growth in a growing economy. It's about stagnation and just stumbling along because government spending is consuming what could be private sector investment is what's going on. Now, what I was bringing up at the beginning of this episode, where I stumbled upon this article about flying drone taxis in Dubai, and these things could roll out as soon as this summer in July. Just go type this in, and actually, I know, go follow me on Twitter at Justin Moore Show. I tweeted out the article from The Economist, and this is actually where I'm pulling up. I have a few paragraphs here. I don't know what the heck I'm going to read out of this, but there's actually, if you just type in flying drone taxis in Dubai, just type that in. There'll be you'll see a link for the Wall Street Journal. Click on it. It's a YouTube video, like a minute and a half long, and you'll see these drones. It's a giant drone that fits one person, and apparently it can hold one person up to 220 pounds. So if you weigh over 220, you're not going to be able to fly in a little drone. You're going to have to wait until they get bigger drones, okay? But anyway, with this one drone, it's got the little, it's the quadcopter, so it's got the little blades, and this thing says it's going to be an unpiloted drone, and it's going to carry someone. It'll have a range of basically 31 miles or 50 kilometers or a half hour of flying time. And it says here in the article, the long-term implications are huge, not only for Dubai, which has among the world's deadliest roads, but also for congested cities around the world. While others sit bumper to bumper, a passenger in these new drones will be able to cruise above the gridlock at an average speed of 100 kilometers an hour, which is 62 miles an hour. I mean, can you imagine what this can do for, all the congestion you have and, these bigger cities are like, man, being out in Montana where I'm at, if I could fly to the big city of Billings on a little drone from my house, holy crap, that would be awesome. Dodge all the dang interstates. And what's so frustrating where I live, they recently, I think there's so many people around this area that are upset where, last year they raised the speed limit to 80. Well, there's this one stretch from Laurel, Montana to Billings. It's like probably, like an 8-mile stretch where it was 80, and now they cut it It's now 65. So last year, before they raised the speed limit to 80, but it was 75 before, so they upped it by 5 miles an hour. Well, now we went in total reverse. We now have it at 65 miles an hour, which I know in a lot of these big cities, or I know when I've been driving through Oregon, you don't see interstates faster than 65. It's like, oh man, this really blows. But now here I am is Montana. All you have is a bunch of roads. We're the fourth largest state. And we have 65 mile an hour speed limits. And they were arguing and reading this article from the Gazette. They're saying, oh, well, we rationalized it because we did this study. It seems like most people go 65 anyway, which is such a bunch of bull. And then apparently they're calling it a city limits zone, which a city limits zone so they can make it 65 instead of having it at 80. It's just so frustrating. So commuting, via my way to Billings really sucks. The commute time just got longer. The speed limit was cut by 15 miles an hour. So that totally sucks. So I need to get one of these little drones. And actually one of these little drones, when I had my interview with Keith Weiner last year, I was talking about this in my behind the scenes interview where he was at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. So this is on 2016 in January. And he took a picture and he posted it on Facebook of one of these drones that fits one person. And I asked him, like, how much does that thing cost? And he's like, oh, it's about $300,000. You could buy yourself a drone that'll go, it's just like these ones in Dubai. But, think about that. A manless drone where it'll fly for you. It'll pick you up. Uber of the air. Imagine you're a politician or you're trying to jump from city to city, dodge all that congestion, all the congestion on the road. Gosh dang, going 31 miles. And they're only going to improve, like with any sort of technology. It's amazing, and I'm excited for this. I can't wait for these things to get cheaper so I can get one eventually. But apparently here, reading from this article from The Economist, it says in June, the American state of Nevada cleared the world's first passenger-carrying drone for testing. The craft is the same one being introduced in Dubai, the Chinese-made Yihong 184, a compact pod with 4 dual propeller extensions that navigates by using sensors. At that time, many were quick to pronounce the widespread adoption of such vehicles was still a long way off. Success in Dubai could accelerate things dramatically. And this is amazing. And just continuing from this article here. Ditching the pilot goes a step beyond the blue sky thinking taking place at another transport innovator, Uber. In October, the ride-hailing firm released a 97-page white paper outlining plans for flying cars that could turn a 2-hour drive into a 15-minute flight. Those vehicles would be manned by pilots, but Uber projects that they would eventually be far cheaper for a 60-mile trip than the company's standard Uber X cars are now. Could you guys, this is just, it's so exciting to me. This is amazing. That would be so cool. It's like for me, where I live, just outside of Billings, and Bozeman, Montana is like, hour and a half away. Have someone with a drone pick me up and I could get to Bozeman, Montana. Say you want to go to a Bobcat game, which is one of the big football teams here in Montana. Get there in, say, 15, 20 minutes. That would be amazing. Imagine how that'll change where people live. The suburbs, they can get that much farther away from the big cities because your commute time could be the same, but you could be farther from town. People who could never you could literally live out in the middle of nowhere in the country, take your little drone, go into town. Don't have to worry about the roads, these horrible, bumpy dirt roads. Just the innovation. And look here, perfect example of the private sector bailing us out yet again, making things better, making travel cheaper, making our travel more efficient, making it so we could take advantage of the same land we had before. People always say, oh, they don't make any more land. But now some land that was really not that inhabitable or really ideal before, that sort of land is becoming more ideal. So think about it. What if you own some dry land that's out in middle of nowhere, which from my house, there's actually, you don't have to go too far and you can be in the middle of nowhere. You own some of this ground where it's really not that expensive, but with this sort of technology, it's going to make that land more valuable. People are going to value living out in the country more. You won't have to live in the cities anymore. You can just be a 15-minute commute or less. That is amazing. And then we look here, let's see, yada, yada, yada. So all of these sort of innovations. Now, is this drone technology, is this coming from government? No, it's private sector. And look at how Uber wants to take advantage of this. And where you could have, and isn't that crazy? A 2-hour drive, you could make that into a 15-minute flight. And they're saying that it will eventually be far cheaper for a 60-mile trip than the company's standard Uber X driver cars, what they cost right now. But you could fly. That is what capitalism does, my friends. Making things cheaper, making things that benefit everybody. It's not just the rich that benefit. It's the rich that utilize technology before anybody else. Right now with the drones, say if one of those drones costs $300,000, obviously poor people can't afford a $300,000 vehicle. But for the rich, that'll definitely be worth it. Business travel, hopping between cities, and then when they have a range where you can go a couple hundred miles, I mean, that's huge. Companies will own these things, and instead of taking the company car, you'll take the company drone, and say from Montana, you'll need to go fly down to Denver. There's a lot of business travelers that do that sort of thing. I mean, the innovation that's coming our way, and it's in spite of what government has done. Government has prevented a lot of this progress that could have happened years and years ago. But no, the government wants to take our money and piss it away and say, no, we're doing it for you. We're trying to help you out. No, you're not. You're making us worse off, so stop it. Give me my money back and quit spending my money. Okay? And so, guys, I don't know. I guess that's all I want to cover on today's show. There is just so much going on. You have, Trump and all of his little appointees, that Andy Puzner, who is the Charles Jr. guy. And actually, he's been a speaker at Freedom Fest. Seems like a really solid guy. He pulled out of nominations, and, and then, I don't know, then you have the little sleazeballs working for Trump like that, who's the former head of the Republican Party, Reince Priebus. You know what? Personally, you know what I always call this guy, which I've never brought it up on my show, because for some reason, I never have to talk about old Reince Priebus. I like to call him Rince's his plebeius. That's my name for him. So, I don't know. So, yeah, Trump's talking about draining the swamp. I mean, Trump, you just got to give it to him. He has done some good things, but there's a lot of bad with it, and it's only the start. I'm not going to be too critical. I have my inclinations, and that I don't think we're going to see the beneficial progress that a lot of other people are so optimistic about. But hey, I'm going to take what I can get, I guess, right? And so, guys, you just keep it right here every single week, and we'll try to get through all the economic news and what's really going on out there. Try to break down all these people who are so giddy about the economy. Oh, yes, the stock market keeps breaking new highs. Oh, man, it's on the way to 21,000. Then who knows, 25,000, 30,000 point Dow. People, when they start getting overly optimistic, that's when people really start doubling down on leverage, and they go on margin. And then that's when the bust happens, is when everybody's way too optimistic. And it's that quote from Warren Buffett where, this is a verbatim quote, but be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. So with that said, guys, the best thing we can do as individuals is educate ourselves. That's why, for me, I joined Tom Woods Liberty Classroom. And if you want to join Tom Woods Liberty Classroom, just go to my website. Go to justinmooreshow.com. Moore is spelled M-O-H-R. Click on the picture of Tom Woods there on the site. And you sign up through my link. You send me an email at jmoore616@gmail.com. And I will send you my bonus episodes. Tom Woods Liberty Classroom, he has over 17 classes available with hundreds of hours of content, all for a small price. I think it's $85. It's amazing. And you're getting my bonus episodes where I teach you how to save hundreds and hundreds of dollars going to Vegas and all this sort of stuff. And I have new bonus episodes coming out. And I'll also put you in a drawing for the silver coin. So if you can do that, buy your Amazon goods through my Amazon widget link there, or donate to my show, I would appreciate it, guys. I'll be back next week, and I'll talk with you then, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.